Well, that clock is counting down, so I better get started. As always, very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to thank my Lord and Savior, because Jesus Christ is the reason why we live in this blessed and prosperous land. I don't care what anybody says. The United States of America is a Christian nation founded on the principles and wisdom of Jesus Christ. And so we give him thanks first and foremost above everything. So I've only got about 12 minutes, so we're going to get right into this thing, guys. I'm going to go ahead and tell you like this. Guys, it is time. It is time. And what is the time right now? The time is for patriots in this nation to stand up and reclaim who we are as Americans. To no longer let CNN and ABC and CBS and all those leftists on the other side of the aisle from us define who we are as Americans, as patriots, as Republicans. The time is now to define ourselves and stand up and do what we need to do, because here it is. As I said many times, the proof is in the pudding. What conservatives have said about the left over the past 50 years at this present time is being proved true more than any other time in history. If you don't believe me, let's just take a look at the things that we always talk about. Let's take a look at that crucial issue of life. You look at it in New York City, up in New York, one of the greatest states in this nation, they literally cheered for infanticide. At every turn, we see abortion being championed in this nation. And now with COVID, we see people being turned away for crucial medical procedures because they don't want to relent to some type of mandate. Life means nothing to those folks on the left, and they prove it every day. And in this time, they're proving it more and more. You take a look at that crucial issue of self-protection, of Americans being able to protect themselves. You know, we love to talk about the Second Amendment, but one thing we always forget is this. The Second Amendment is a God-given right. God gave us the right to self-defense, and it was enshrined by us in our Declaration and set down in law by our Constitution. And I can guarantee you there are places around the world right now that wish they had a Second Amendment in their Constitution. Places like Australia, where we've seen terrible things happening under what's become almost a totalitarian dictatorship. Places like just north of the border here in Canada under Castro. Excuse me, I mean Trudeau. I forgot what decade I was in. Now more than ever, it's being proven that men need the right. People need the right. Free people need the right to be able to defend themselves and defend their freedoms. And then you look at the issue of education in this nation. You know, back in my home state of North Carolina, we are fighting tooth and nail in North Carolina to straighten out our education system. We spend almost half of our state budget on education in North Carolina, and our children can't read at a grade level. Meanwhile, pornography is in our libraries. We're in classrooms teaching children about adult issues like transgenderism. And we're setting black children on one side of the room and white children on the other side and teaching them to despise each other. If ever there was a time for conservatives to stand up in this nation and fight back for our children, it is now, right now. Parents concerned about their children's education being called terrorists. Politicians who are standing against the evils in our schools being demonized. Folks, it's time to stand up and fight back. The time is right now. And then you take a look at what's going on with our police officers and law and order in this country. Every time I turn around, there's another police officer being murdered, being assassinated, being assaulted, being charged with something that they have not done. And the whole time, the crime rate is spiraling out of control. Why? Because the criminals are watching. The criminals are watching the politicians in their neighborhoods, allow them to get away with anything they want to get away with, and they're watching some conservatives tuck tail and run on this issue. Now is the time for conservatives to stand strong on this issue and back the blue and make sure that police officers are protected as they do their jobs on the street. Then we need to take a look at what's going on with this thing called COVID. You know, COVID is the virus, but you know what the real virus is? The real virus is Democrats. The real virus is totalitarian leftist thugs who have used this virus to browbeat the American people and have used it for political purposes. Now, I'm going to go ahead and stand here and tell you on the stage right now, I'm not against the vaccine. I'm not smart enough to be against the vaccine. I have no idea what's in it. I'm not here to tell you not to take it, and I'm not here to tell you to take it. What I'm here to tell you is that as an elected official, it's my job to make sure you get it if you want it. But it's also my job to make sure that if your doctor wants to treat you with ivermectin, that it's there, ready, and available. And that no medical board, no pharmacist, or anybody else has the right to stand in between you and your doctor when it comes to something called medical freedom. That's your choice, your doctor's choice, and you should make it. Not the governor, not the mayor, or anybody else. And what's been going on with this COVID thing is just a sign of things to come if they get total control. And then there's another issue that we've been looking at also. Been looking at it real close, this thing called election integrity. I don't care what you tell me, 83,000 people did not vote for Joe Biden. I don't think 83 million people know who Joe Biden is. Joe Biden doesn't know who Joe Biden is. Joe Biden is an incompetent, incontinent nitwit who has ruined everything he has touched. From Afghanistan to where you stand, he's ruined everything he's touched. There was ever a time in this country when it was time for us to stand up against the wiles of the federal government. It is now. People ask me why I didn't run for the Senate, why I want to stay in North Carolina, because I need to be there to slam the door in the face of the federal government. That's what we need to do all across this country. And let me just say this in closing. Americans are special people. Americans are special. We are unique in the world. And why? Because Americans do not lie down and take it. We stand up and we fight back. We do not lie down and take it. And people ask me all the time, where did you learn to be so forceful? Where did you learn to fight back? I'm going to tell you right now. I learned it from a lady named Eva Mae Robinson. Eva Mae Robinson was my mother. God rest her soul. She's been gone since 2016. She didn't get to see any of this down here on earth. But see, in 1979, my mother, who had very little education and who had never worked outside the home, she had 5 children in her house, ranging from high school to elementary. Her husband, my father, John L. Robinson, died and left her alone with those 5 children. At that point, my mother's back was up against the wall. See, my mother could have laid down, become a ward of the state, went on welfare and collected all kind of checks and just sat there and waited for the government to take care of her. But she didn't do that. My mother walked. She walked across the street from our house, and she went and got a job as a custodian at a college. She cleaned toilets and floors for other people's children in college so she could take care of her children at home. You see, my mother did not lay down. My mother, she did what Americans do in times of trouble. She found herself with her back against the wall. She found herself down on the canvas when her husband died, but she didn't lay there. She stood up.
She got up, she leaned forward, and she fought back. And that is what it's time for Americans to do in this country. It's time for us to stand up, lean forward, and fight back. So, my fine leftist socialist friends, don't be surprised when all of your machinations fail. Do not be surprised when your attempts to subvert our votes fail. Don't be surprised when your attempts to place mandates and demands on us through this virus. Don't be surprised when they fail. Don't be surprised when all of your efforts to indoctrinate the minds of our children fail. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised when you look around and you see the flag still flying, and you see patriots still standing, and you see the Constitution still as a law of our land, and you see America still free and prosperous. Do not be surprised, because the patriots of this nation are going to stand up, lean forward, and fight back and win. And we're going to do it right in your face, whether you like it or not. God bless the great state of Florida. God bless the great state of North Carolina. And God bless the United States of America. Thank you all.